My name is Kainton the Genius, and as you know, I'm a data scientist and also a machine learning expert. But I want to make this lesson Spring Security for my subscribers because this has been a problem for many Java developers. So this will be step by step on Spring Security with all the codes, all the steps you need to follow. I've laid them out, and feel free to copy the codes if you want and use it in your program. But I'll recommend you type it out yourself. So we are going to start right from the scratch. We are going to build an application that is unsecured. We gradually add security to it, login, username and password, and then we see how we can store this login in MySQL database. So let's get started. Before I continue, I'd like to remind you to subscribe to my channel because I'm a data scientist and a machine learning expert, but I'm kind of going out of the way to make this Spring Security tutorial for my subscribers and for you Java programmers out there. And you can see that it is truly not easy, not because it's not completely easy, but because I kind of make it so easy by breaking it down to chunks and explaining along the line as we go. So please click on subscribe button below to subscribe to my channel if this is informative for you. Also like my video and also share it around and let me know by leaving a comment for me how good this has been, and if you have a recommendation, leave it for me there. So the first thing you'll need to do, we need to create an unsecured application. So now we are going to start from the scratch. We are going to be using Spring Tool Suite. So if you don't have Spring Tool Suite in your system, go out there to Google, download Spring Tool Suite. It's free. Spring Tool Suite. Download it and install it. If you've not installed it, pause this video, download it and install it, and then open it, and let's continue. So the first thing we are going to do, let's just create an unsecured application that stores list of users. So let me just call it, I'm going to create file, go to file, new, and choose new startup project. I'm going to be quite fast because I already have the steps right here. So the first thing I want to do, I'm going to give it a name. Let me call it SP security. Okay, let me just Spring Security tutorial. So let's give it this name, Spring Security tutorial, and group is com.kttpro is okay, or com.kindtongenius. Okay, so package is also okay, com.kindtongenius. Let's just call it ktg dot Spring Security tutorial. Okay, so com.kindtongenius, so that's com.ktg. Okay, so let's give it. So what we are going to also do, we need to add dependencies. For instance, Spring Web Starter and Timeleaf. Along the line, I'm going to teach you about MySQL database and also how to use Timeleaf to create a HTML database, a HTML web page, and serve this HTML web page using a Spring application. So just follow suit, and the next thing we want to do is to go next and Spring Security tutorial. So this. Okay, so just go next and then choose Spring Web Starter and choose MySQL driver, and also choose. For now we have Spring Web Starter and Timeleaf. So let's leave this. When the time comes, we are going to add it. So just look for Timeleaf there. Timeleaf. In case you don't know, Timeleaf is a template management engine used to serve HTML web pages on a Java application or on a Spring application. So I'm going to just go next and just say finish. So in the template folder, we are going to create a HTML page. So like we are going to take this page as a home page so that you can see how Spring can serve a HTML page. So now I'm going to just take out all these other applications existing here so that they will not cause any confusion and we'll be able to focus on what we are doing. Okay, so user operation waiting, so let's wait for a couple of minutes. Okay, I'm going to delete this. I'm also going to delete this as well, and finally I'm going to delete this. So at the end of the day, we only have this application we are working with. So we're going to open it. If you open it, you go to, let me just show you something from the XML. You can see that we added two dependencies that we added right there. So if you go to dependencies section, you can see timeleaf, you can see Spring Boot Starter timeleaf, and Spring Web Starter, okay? So this test dependency is added by default in every new Spring application. So let's go to the resources folder and go to templates folder, and inside the templates folder we are going to create index.html page. So go to new, the template folder, go to new and choose order and choose HTML file and go next and call it index.html. Again, if I'm too fast, please pause the video and then look through the procedures right there. So I'm going to just go next and say finish. So we have a HTML page. I'm going to just give it a title as well. I'm going to call it Spring Security. Okay, so in the body, let's just add maybe some text that says "Welcome to Spring Security Tutorial." Okay, I'm just going to say BR. Hope you enjoy it. And I'm going to also finally remind you to subscribe to my channel. Subscribe. Alright. So I've created a HTML page. I'm going to just save it, and that's all. Write some message on it. We've done it. Note that the templates folder is found inside the SRC main resources folder. Remember that. And create a class and call it home controller. So the controller file is a Java file or a Java class that actually handles the logic of displaying this web page. So I'm going to go to SRC, this time SRC main Java, and I'm going to just right click on the default template, and I'm going to say new, and I'm going to say new class. I'm going to call it home controller. So this home controller class will contain logic that will display the home page when a user goes to certain URL. So the next thing is just to say next. All right. Again, we are following the procedure, and we are going to annotate this class with @controller. The @controller means that this file is a controller, meaning that when a user requires something from the browser, this file can handle it and decide what to do or what methods to run. So I'm going to annotate it with @controller. Now there's error there. That error will be removed if you press Ctrl-Shift-O on your keyboard, and it's going to bring in the necessary namespace. Alright, so the next step says write a method inside this class to return index.html page. And I'm going to just say write a method, so let's call it public. The method, let's call it return home, right? Public string methods. Again, the code is there on my website. You can just copy and paste. Return, let's just call it go home. Okay. Oh no, okay. So this go home will simply return the name of the HTML page. Return index. That's all you need to do. And we also need to tell Spring the URL that is going to be typed in the browser that will come to this this method and run it and return this page. So we are going to say @request mapping annotation @request mapping, and when a user types /home, is going to come to this place and return the index page. Now the index page is .html, we know, but you don't need to write it because timeleaf is going to interpret it and know that this page is index.html page that you want to return. Ctrl-Shift-O on my keyboard and the error goes away. So now if we test this application is going to display the home page. So trust me, it's going to work that way. And at this point, I'm going to just run the application by saying right click on it and just say run as and choose Spring Boot app. So let's see what happens when the application runs. So let's see the console. It can say Tomcat started at port 8080. So let's go to check in port 8080. HTTP backslash, and I'm going to say localhost port 8080 slash home, and you can see that it returns the home page right here. So this is the home page. If you right click on it and look at the source, you can see that this is the source, which is what we have in our Spring Boot application, the HTML page right here. That's exactly what we have. So this is working. Let's go back to follow the next step. So now we've completed creating an unsecured application. This application is not secure. Anybody can just go blah 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 and the browser /home and get to this place without logging in, without no security. Let's now add some authentication, and it's like magic how the authentication works, because you see a login page is going to be created for us just like that out of the box. So what we are going to do, we are going to add a particular dependency, and that dependency is called Spring Boot Starter Security. That is the name of the dependency. Let's add this dependency to this application and run it and see what happens. So to add this dependency, for sure you can copy it from my website and paste it there, but you need to learn how to go to Maven repository and get any dependency you need. So I'm going to just go to Maven repository at this point and go to Maven repository. So we are looking for Spring Boot Starter Security, Spring Boot Starter Security. Okay, so that is this first one. Click on it. Or maybe I'll take the release 2.1.6 and I'm going to say there's the dependency right here. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to just put it right in my form.xml. In the dependency section, I'm just going to put it somewhere there and just do a layer cleanup. At this point, I've added Spring Security. Let's now run this application to see what we have. So I'm going to just relaunch this application and let's see what we have there. Alright, so now the application started. You can see Tomcat started on port 8080. If I now go back to the application to try to access this application, you can see, let me just go back here. If I try to access this application, it doesn't let me in because now we have added Spring Security, and say the login form is displayed for us without having to design this form by ourselves. This is really interesting, and this is how easy Spring Security is, but you need a genius like me to explain it in a very simple way. So the default username is user, and the default password is gotten from the console. So if you look, if you check in the console, I'll just scroll here, you can see at this point it says user generated security password, and you just copy this password generated here, and this will be the password, the default password to use. I'm going to paste it there, and I'm going to log in, and it logs in at this point. So we've added the default security to our application. If you think you want to use your application like this, feel free. But trust me, you will not have to use an application like this because hackers will always know this default password and username, and you cannot do this. So we can do this, but it tells us how easy it is to add security and authentication to our application in Spring for Java programmers. This is not for .NET programmers. I have a different model for .NET. So let's go to the procedure to see. So this is where we are. Now we need to add login details to application.properties file. So what it means is that we are going to, instead of using Spring Security username and password, we are going to add in username and password to the application.properties file. So we are going to come here, go to application.properties file, and you can say spring.security.user.username equal to kindson. So there is a username, and let's add spring.security.user.password equal to root. So at this point, I should work using this username and password we created in the application.properties file. But for some reason, I don't know. For some reason, or let me just change this because this is also, let's say gold, okay? For some reason, it doesn't work. But let's try. Maybe it's gonna work this time. I don't know. But when I tried it before now, it actually does not work. But it should. All right. So Tomcat started at port 8080, as you can see right here. And if I come back here, you can see that we actually don't have any password in the console for us, right? So if I go back to the application now, and I'm going to just relaunch it at this point. I'm going to type kindson and gold, and for some reason it doesn't work. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to come here, take out the, I'm taking out the single quotes and closing the username and password. Let's see if it's gonna work that way, and that it means that we have cracked the puzzle. So I'm going to relaunch the application again. So if it runs, okay, Tomcat started at port 8080, as you can see right there. And if we go back to this place, I'm going to just relaunch it again. I'm going to enter kindson and gold, G-O-L-D, login. It doesn't work as well. So this I don't really know, but that is not the main thing. Let's proceed in the tutorial. So now let's now go to the key parts, the really main part of this tutorial. Now Spring provides web security configurer adapter, and for you to work with security, you need to extend web security configurer adapter. You simply create a class that extends web security configurer adapter. So this web security configurer adapter works with the web security annotation to provide web-based security. What it's going to do is that it will require user to be authenticated before he accesses resources or pages. Create a user with default credentials, user password credentials, and a role called role_user. Enables basic HTTP form authentication and redirect user to the login page. So let's follow the steps because this is a step-by-step. So let's go follow the steps. Step 1, create a class that extends create a class and give it a name app security config. Now you can use another name if you want, but I choose to name it app security config. So I'm going to come here, say new, and say new class. I'm going to name it app security config. So we are going to make it extend web security configurer adapter. So I can actually add it here, like I'll add a superclass. No. So add a superclass. So I'm going to say web security configurer adapter. You can see, just add it here and say finish. And you can see we created a class that extends web security configurer adapter. The next thing you want to do is to add web security to this class. It's very important because the web security configurer adapter works with this annotation. We are going to add enable web security, and another annotation that says add configuration because this class is a configuration class. Configuration. All right, so Control-Shift-O on the keyboard is going to add the necessary namespaces. enable web security, so there's a little typo there. Okay, now step 4 says write a method that overrides the user details method. To do this, right click and choose source, override or implement method, and choose user details. So the web security configurer adapter provides a method that we need to override, and that is user details service. So just say source and choose source. You choose override or implement methods and choose user details service. This user details service, and just say OK. All right, so I don't like all these generators coming, so I'm just going to take it out. So inside this method, we are going to create an array list of user details. So I'm going to call it users. So I'm going to just take out this for now. So I'm going to say array list of user details. Okay, because user details is a class that wraps user information, and I'm going to say user details users is equal to new array list. I think I can remember the syntax for array list. I think this should be it. Okay, this is fine. All right, so I think I got it. All right, so the next thing is you've created an empty array list. Create a few user details object and add the objects to the list, right? So now there's a particular way to create user details objects, and to do that, I start by creating the first one. Oh, give a second. Inside. Okay, I think we are on track. Annotate this method with @bin and also override. We annotate it with @override and now with @bin. Okay, that is fine. All right. So let's create some user details at this point. So I'm going to say users dot add because I want to add some user details objects to this create a few user details objects. So let's say, okay, let's just create some user details objects. So I'm going to say user details u1 is equal to user. Now this system is kind of slow. User dots okay, so the system is being too slow. Meanwhile, if you miss out something, just add it. Just look at the code right here, and you get it. So I'm going to kind of okay. So let's see. Okay, let me just follow the procedure I have. U1 is equal to user dots with default password encoder dot user name, and username is, let's say, kindson dot password dot, I like using the IntelliSense pass. So default password encoder dot username dot passwords roots and dots builds. All right, so let's see the build. Okay, that is fine. Okay, so maybe we just add, before we build, let's just add .roles. Okay, so I actually should be using double quotes. Now Python has confused me because I actually have been working with Python for a long time. So I'm going to just take out this as well. All right, so take out the single underscore. So I'm going to shift this a little so that you can see the entire line. Right, so we've created one user object. So I'm going to create a second one. So just copy it and paste twice. So this one, U2 and U3, U2, and this time U3, all right? So let's call this on Kindson, I'm changing to Jaden. Password gold, password here is gift. All right, so this, we have created three user details objects, okay? Now, the next thing I want to do is to add these user details objects to the list of to users, to the array. So I'm going to say users.add. Now this system is kind of U1. And the same thing, I'm going to say users.add U2 and U3. So U1, U2, and U3. Okay, so I've created three user details objects that we can use for logging. And then what you are going to return, because this you're not going to return users, because this is user details. This method returns user details service. So we are going to return user details service. So we are going to say return new in. Let me see. Let me not get it wrong. So it should be new in memory. New in memory user details manager. So in memory user details manager, and now provide it with the array list of users and just give it users, and then I'm going to close the semicolon. So what do we have here? So we are going to import it from this namespace, and I'm going to save everything. So step 10 says launch the application, and now what you have with default password encoder is marking it marking it with the green line because it's not safe to use default password encoder. But this is a demo. You are not going to. This is a demo. You are not going to do this in production application because this is not secure. So this is my disclaimer. Don't do this on production. So I'm going to launch this application, and we are going to try to use these usernames and password to try to log in. So let's say launch the application at this point. All right, so we can see that our application have started. So Tomcat started on port 8080. Let's go test it out. If I refresh the page and I try to enter user whatever, and it doesn't work. But let's try Kindson and roots. This point it works. Again, I'm going to go back. If I refresh, I'm going to try the second one. Let's see. The second one is saffron and gold. Saffron and gold. Saffron and GOLD. Sign in, and it worked. Okay. Now this is how to use web security configure adapter, and then you create user details object and wrap it around an array list, and then you're able to use a return new in-memory user details manager and give it the array list you have. But this is just the beginning. We need to actually store this application, this password and usernames in SQL Server database, in MySQL database. So in the next step, in real application, we probably will not create users in this way. So this is one thing. User details will be stored in a database. How do we achieve this? So we are moving to the next step at this point. So I'm going to pause this, kind of stop this video and switch over to part 2, and let's continue with Spring Security tutorial using user credentials in MySQL. I would like to thank you for viewing. Thank you for coming all the way to this point. If you have challenges, let me know. Please subscribe to my channel. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button so that you kind of motivate me to keep making these lessons. And also leave me a comment if this has been informative for you. At this point, let's move to part 2.